All right, welcome everybody to Pure Innovations webinar today. I'm sporting my mom's smile today as we launch this exciting new webinar series on a very relevant topic. Today we're talking about transforming routines, the power of AI. I'm Mark Mueller, president of Pure Solutions. We're a focused team of industry professionals focused pretty much around procurement and identifying solutions to tough technology or tough challenges across the industry. We have backgrounds in procurement and technology and areas that we found that we can really help industry operators tackle those challenges. We work with them to evaluate solutions, work through the implementation and ongoing optimization with our ongoing goal of improving the lives of seniors through those who are serving them. So welcome today to this edition of Pure Innovations. We have a VIP with us here from Sonida and also from WiseOx, and we'll get started here. I'd like to introduce you to Emily Bolling. Hi, Emily.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, well, tell us a little bit about your role at Sonida.
Yeah, so my role at Sonida Senior Living is I've been there about 4 years now, and it's morphed into more of an HR program specialist role. So really working with different programs that we can utilize throughout the entire company from a corporate level down. And so that specifically involved new initiatives and new ways that we can be innovative as a company. And so I just get the day-to-day of building out those programs and distributing them to our employers. And yeah, that's just a little bit about what I do at Sonida.
Oh, great. Well, welcome. And hello, Fritz. Last year we met about a year ago, right? And you were presenting at the Spark Innovation event on AI as our expert. And a lot has happened in a year. At that time, we were all just getting started with ChatGPT. Or not, maybe getting started with that. And then certainly a lot has happened in a year. So we're excited to have you here today to give us some updates on AI and kind of lead the discussion with Emily on a use case scenario for with Sonida. Thank you.
Great. Thanks for the introduction, Mark. Again, my name is Fritz Brumder. I'm one of the co-founders and the CEO here at WiseOx. We are creating trained AIs that we call Mascots, and today we'll show you a couple of demos of them. But first, I just wanted to give everybody a little bit of background information on the concept of large language models and why AI is coming up so often in our business meetings, in our mass media, in our daily consumer lives. Why does AI matter? And we can really boil it down to one word, and that's language. Language is the key thing that has changed in the world of AI and opened up opportunities. And the simplest way I can describe that is that AIs understand, or computers understand, language better via the lens of AI and large language models. So as everybody on this call, when we say something like knock knock, we know immediately in our head what the next word is that should be coming out of everybody's mouth. Well, an AI also knows those same words. And that's a simple example, but if you extrapolate that out to something more business practical, Frontier Management happens to be one of our customers, and they have a great program called Spark. And Spark has initiatives and has a mission and has a vision behind it. It has a Montessori focus. So if you ask an AI that has been trained on Frontier Management, the Spark program the AI can easily complete that sentence for you. Just like a great employee, just like the CEO of the organization would do the same if you asked that same question. So today, as I mentioned, we're going to go deeper on a couple examples. We actually have Emily here from Sonida, but this is a screenshot of their mascot, Joy. Joy is a trained AI that knows all of the background and information, a lot of proprietary information that is unique to Sonida. And that information and content has been loaded into the AI of Joy. And therefore, Joy has the knowledge and expertise to be able to be an HR specialist and HR expert for Sonida. If you think about that in a much larger context, Texas Assisted Living Association has built an AI called Ruth, and Ruth is trained on all of the Texas state rules and regulations. So this is a lot of words. Think back to what I just described about language. If you take all of the words and all of the language associated with the Texas state rules and regulations, it would just be too much for any individual human to understand and read through and answer questions on at a very, very fast pace, right? Well, AI can do that. And so as an AI assistant, Ruth can search through and surface answers to questions much, much faster than any individual could. That also gives a lot of capacity to a small organization like Texas Assisted Living Association and can deliver a lot of value for them. So why don't we switch over to Emily, your background a little bit more, and let's talk about how you learned about AI and what the first steps were for starting to adopt AI at Sonida.
Yeah, I think it all starts, I think we've all kind of heard AI floating about, and as a company, it was something that we were interested in at the corporate level specifically, because we are such a small team that we have a big company. We're growing a lot this year, and we needed a way to be there all the time for our employees at the community level. So part of that was in the HR space, where I am currently working mostly in, and we're hoping to expand that to other departments. But we said, okay, how can we take this and make an HR mascot, specifically gearing towards employee relations issues, things like that, so they can answer questions for our users in the communities. So our caregivers, our housekeepers, our dietary servers, and such can utilize this at an instant. It's not, they're waiting for an email response. They're not waiting maybe till the next morning or something like that. They can get this any time of the day. And it was so important for us to really adopt this just because we are growing and we can't always be there and we want to be there. And this was our solution to do that. And so it's been such a great experience, and I appreciate you for letting me come on and talk about it a little bit more.
Can you tell us a little bit more about who the people were, who are the team members that needed to be involved in training your mascot, and what was the process like collecting the documentation and information that ultimately went into your mascot knowledge base?
Yeah, so I think as a company, we typically create documentation as a team. Specifically, I'll speak from the HR team because that's what I know. But we have a documentation of different guides, a SharePoint of just different materials that we've collected over the years and created for our users. But it's not always practical for our team members that are so hands-on at our communities to go into that SharePoint and to find what document they need and then get to the place in the document that they were looking for when they have so many other things going on day to day. And part of that was saying, okay, we have all this material here, but it's not quick. It's not an easy process to get to that material for our community members. And so really the implementation was probably the easiest part of it, was we had all that material there. It just, we needed to find a way for that mascot to regurgitate and train that mascot to deliver those answers at a quicker pace than we could do.
Can you describe a little bit then? So you've gone through the process of creating the mascot, you loaded in the information, you started to train the mascot. So your first group of users start interacting with the AI.
Yeah.
Do you have any stories about their experience or any light bulb moments that happened in that first testing phase?
Yeah, I think for us, the big one was we have a lot of night shift employees. We have a lot of people that work at night. And as much as we want to say that they get the time and attention and answers they need when they need them, it just doesn't happen all the time. And we didn't want that to happen. We didn't want it to be a delayed reaction or a delayed response to the questions that they have, because their goal is to be thinking about the resident. The goal is to be thinking about other things, not, oh yeah, in the morning I need to get back to this person in HR or this thing over here. And a mascot was really a way to say, oh, in the moment, you have a down second to ask the question, you can pull up a mascot and ask it, and it will give you the answer right there, or tell you where to go in a one-click button right there on your screen to take you where you needed to go. And so it just solved a lot of our problems, especially with night shift employees that had basic questions that didn't always get the best communication because of the time that they were working.
Thank you. That's great. If anybody else has questions, by the way, you can put them into the chat function and I'll get to them. I have a few more questions set up for Emily, but we do want to take questions from the audience. So if you have them, you can queue them up and I'll pay attention to that. Emily, I do want to go back a little bit more to the training process. So once you loaded the information into the mascot, can you describe how it learned, or maybe not how, but what was your experience seeing how the mascot learned from all the knowledge and information that you have? Like you said, you had all these documents in different places and they cover a wide variety of topics. But how did the mascot connect all of those topics together to be able to answer net new questions that maybe weren't covered in any one section of the documentation?
Yeah, I think the important part, because AI can be kind of that subject that a lot of people just don't know about. And the great thing about these mascots is you're giving them the material and then they're learning it for you. You don't have to sit there and educate this mascot. You give them the material and they kind of learn themselves of what to respond with. And it's very much, hey, was this the right response? Was this the wrong response? Okay, let's tweak this a little bit. But for the most part, the mascot's doing the learning of the material you're giving the mascot. They're not pulling it from anywhere crazy. It's just the material that you've given them, and they learn it so quick. It's the most easy process I can think of, because you just feed them all of these documents, links to different sites that you may use frequently or different things like that. And then once they have that material, that mascot just knows this is how I need to respond to things. And so it was such a quick process. Again, I spoke previously about how we kind of had some of the material there. It just wasn't as easily accessible. So that was fairly easy. And then we did go ahead and put pre-built prompt questions in the search bar. So before you ask a mascot a question, there's little buttons that you can, almost action buttons that you can put in there. And we just decided to go ahead and put in, what does this mascot do? So we have Joy and Sunny, our HR, and then now a talent mascot as well to help our talent team. But just what do those mascots do? So even if our users get on there and say, I don't know what to ask this mascot, I don't know how this could be useful, they can click on that and it will give them a list of questions and answers that could be helpful. And then also they can click on those answers and say, oh, I want to know more about this. And the mascot will give you more responses to the things that you want to know about. So it's an easy process. It's a fun process. And I think it's just exciting for our users to get more comfortable and familiar with a mascot being helpful.
I think that's a great point, because at WiseOx, we definitely believe that we're experiencing a new operating system here, that AI is going to be a new tool and a new lens that every employee is going to have to know and understand. And so what you just described there was somebody who maybe has never even interacted with an AI in the first place. You're giving them kind of, what do I say first? How do I get this conversation going? You're essentially having a conversation with the computer for the very first time. And so if you take all of your employees and give them the opportunity to learn through experience, I think that that's really interesting. Could you talk a little bit more about maybe some of the end user feedback on their experience interacting with AI, or maybe think about it from a learning and development perspective, because I know that's a next initiative that you're working on. How has putting AI into the hands of your employees created a learning and development experience for them?
Yeah, I think as we moved to focus more on learning and development as a company, not only as a whole, but for the individual. We want to focus on where you can go, and it may not always be a straight path, right? It may not be a go from here to here to here to here. You may have to go diagonal to get there. And I think with having a mascot, it creates a safe space for those conversations. A lot of times when you operate so at a large scale, so we have the corporate team and then we have communities throughout the entire US, there's conversations that can't happen on a day-to-day basis. There's conversations that may be difficult for somebody to have with someone that you may not see very often, or you may not get to have that conversation. And our hope with learning and development, and in the future specifically, is probably more so geared to the clinical side. So we're hoping to get a mascot or create a mascot that is more clinical based in the future, with regulatory compliance. So that's a big thing that I know that a lot of us deal with senior livings and getting our compliance requirements done for the state. And I found myself specifically in the learning development field saying, okay, I have all these links to the state regulatory requirements, but then I need to go in and see how that's updated each year. 2025 could look a little different. Maybe there's a new requirement that was added to that. And so I'm going and tracking all of this down. I want to have it all in one spot. So what if I put it in a mascot? I put all these links to the state websites for assisted livings within all the states. And then that way I can just get on the mascot and ask her and say, hey, what are the state requirements for Texas in 2025 for assisted livings? And then that mascot can learn the material and give it back to me and update that in real time. Instead of me going and tracking down all these different states and figuring out what's going to be there, it could be at my fingertips. And so I think that that's the direction we want to go in the future with learning and development, is more of a regulatory and compliance for our clinical team.
That's great. I do want to go into more detail about these three mascots that you've talked about. So you have Joy, which is very HR and operations focused. So things like your employee handbook and standard operating procedures and stuff like that. And that was the first mascot that you built.
Yeah.
And then the second one was called Sunny, or is called Sunny. And she's focused on talent development, talent acquisition. We know a huge issue in this industry is employee retention, employee onboarding, and hopefully less often employee offboarding. So can you describe a little bit how you expanded from your first mascot to your second mascot, and what that experience was like for your team?
Yeah, I think when it comes to talent, it's a lot of, that's specifically my background. It comes in talent. So I knew that a lot of it was just a lot of legwork, right? You're going in circles a lot of the time in senior living with talent, which is you have some people come in the door and then you have them leave. And then you have to do the hard work to recruit and get new people. And it's this ongoing cycle that you have to put a lot of work into, because it is that revolving door of, you know, you're seeing people come in and out. And so we wanted to find ways to take out some of the stress of finding candidates, of what do I do for this step? How do I do this? Where can I find these things? We connected it to our internal job board. So, hey, is there another job maybe in a different location, or maybe nearby in the same city? We have multiple communities, sometimes in the same city. Maybe there's a different position that would work better for me. We connected it to a lot of different things. I think one of my favorites about Sunny, our talent mascot, is that a lot of our communities can go on and say, again, hey, I'm in Texas and I'm looking for LPNs. Where could I look for LPNs? And she will literally give them a list of different places and sometimes links to different sites of where you could potentially look for more candidates. And as much as I want to say, well, that's part of the, you know, application process and recruiting process and all that, it's so nice to have an additional resource to say, have you tried all of these things before we look for additional ways to recruit for candidates?
Yeah.
So definitely is an added help for our communities in the sense of recruiting and growth for candidates if they do want to find a different job within our internal job board.
I think anytime you have a repeatable process, other questions that are getting asked the same time, or you obviously want your employee search and your employee onboarding to be the same as consistent as possible. That tends to be a good use case for AI because AI can be very process and very task oriented. So I'm glad to hear that you're heading in that direction. Let's talk about return on investment. So part of getting involved in AI at this point is just getting the experience, and I think that has a lot of value by itself. But let's talk about some of the more tangible return on investment cases that you're discussing at Sonida.
Yeah, so as a team, we typically field questions with a general email inbox. So we have like an HR general email inbox, and all of our questions get funneled through that. And we realized that that was taking a lot of time away from our team's bigger project tasks that were a higher priority for the company. And so our goal with ROI was really, can we almost eliminate most of the questions that were just everyday questions within our HR inbox? And especially when we maybe acquire a new community and they have a lot of questions, but there's not somebody in there every day of the week, that first couple of weeks, and there's questions that come up that they may not have thought about before. This Mascot, or both of them really, help us have more insight into what's going on. And what we saw was that these emails that we were getting with just general questions, maybe it was, how do I get to my onboarding link? You know, just little questions that are pretty easy to respond back to, but those were completely eliminated. That time of checking those emails, getting an answer back to them within the time frame that our team could allow. Again, maybe it wasn't the fastest response. They could get to it at the end of the day when they got to the general email inbox, but now they have those answers at the click of a button when they're ready without even needing to reach out to us. And so we always prompt our users in our Mascots that if they get to the point where they do need help, they can go in there and say, well, who's my human resource business partner? Who's my talent partner to help me? And it will direct them to those people. But at the end of the day, a lot of those questions were just simple answers that we could have the Mascot answer for them.
That's great. Well, we're almost to the point where we're going to take questions from the audience. And actually, we have a giveaway today. Let's see if I can get this to the virtual background.
Big green cup.
We have a partnership with Stanley, which is, other than AI, is probably one of the hottest products out there today. Everybody wants a Stanley water bottle, and we have a partnership, and we're going to send a Stanley water bottle to the best question that comes in from the audience. So audience, prepare your questions. Emily, I wanted to talk a little bit more about the mascot concept and kind of the humanization of these AI assistants or AI mascots. Do you feel like they're starting to be known by name and people know to go to them as a consistent resource? And one of the reasons I ask that is, you know, institutional knowledge and knowing where to go to get the information is sometimes the biggest challenge in any organization. So do you see an opportunity for the AI mascots to be known as a resource on a consistent basis over a longer period of time?
Yeah, a good question. And absolutely, I think you can also, there's several ways that you can put your Mascot easily accessible for your users. For example, all of our team has a link to our Mascots in our email signatures, so they can click it right there and it'll take it to them. Also on that SharePoint that has all of our documents for our communities, we put the links to Joy and Sunny in there. So if a new employee gets to our SharePoint and is saying, oh, I need to find this policy form, where do I go to here, to here, to here? And then we have Joy right there that they can just click on and say, where is this policy form? And it takes it right to them. I think it just is about being familiar with it and getting to know it more. We've also set up QR code flyers with the mascots around the community. So if somebody is on shift and they're thinking about it, they can just scan the QR code on their phone and pull up the mascot, ask the question right there, which I think is really helpful. But it is a little bit about change, right? AI still sometimes for our employees is that topic of, who am I talking to? Are they gonna remember that it's me? Are they gonna, there's a lot of tabooness sometimes to the topic. And I think the more that our users have gotten interactive with Joy and Sunny, and that's what we call them, it's like their team members on the HR team. We're like, have you talked to Joy about that? Or have you gone to Sunny and asked those questions? It's a lot about creating the environment that's safe to explore that. And it also took our team saying, oh, instead of coming to me, did you ask Sunny? She has several options right here. Instead of just giving them the answer that they want and that they need, it's, oh, let's go ask Sunny, or let's go ask Joy and see what she gives us. And then that way they get more familiar with, oh, I didn't need to go and wait 3 hours to talk to this person while they were on calls. I could have just gone to Sunny. And so it does take a little bit of time, but I think the more that people get familiar with it, they realize how useful it is. And not only at the community level, but at the corporate level as well. Is this is, another team member that's part of our team now that we're including in the conversations.
That's great. People often ask me, how many team members we have, and I always say our human team members and then our AI team members. And I think that that's going to continue to grow as AI becomes more of a reliable destination to get information. One of the things we've worked on extensively here at WiseOx is to reduce hallucinations and make sure that the information is accurate. And ultimately that will trickle down to trust at the end user level. If they are using AI, they're getting high quality outputs, they're getting correct answers, then they're going to continue to go back to it and rely on it. We have a question from Greg. What is the most valuable application for AI in senior living communities today? So I'll let you think about that for a minute, Emily, because I think you've covered a lot of it already. But if you have ideas, maybe even that you're not doing currently at Sonida, that would be fine, because obviously you've covered HR and talent and your future growth into learning and development. But I'll share an example quickly relating to content generation. All of us have to write so much in our daily work. We get lots of emails, lots of questions, and ultimately it comes down to you sitting and typing all of those answers. On social, we have tons of content creation that we need to do. Blog posts we're required to create, even things like this, webinars, agendas, et cetera, that happens to be one of the things that AI is really good at. And for an industry like senior living, where people are strapped for time, they have too much on their plate and they need a little bit of pressure relief. And so if you can help them with simple things like writing an email, writing a newsletter, creating a social update, especially for somebody that might be in a role that has multiple jobs, like an executive director. They're responsible for sales, they're responsible for the current residents, they're responsible for operations and staffing, et cetera. So anything that you can do to take a little bit of time off of their plate, we're seeing has huge ROI from an employee satisfaction perspective.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I would say just overall, we saw the need greatest within the HR team as a company in a whole. But that kind of opened the door for other departments, right? So I talked about the clinical team and regulations and things like that with learning and development. But another one of those would be the sales and marketing team. They're fully aware that there's different things that we can utilize within a Mascot to help boost and track our sales and marketing, whether that's materials. Just as a company, I'm sure most people do, we have community Facebook pages, and that helps gain leads on different residents, families, things like that. And a lot of that is what you're talking about. It's content creation. And let me put this together about, maybe it's an employee spotlight, maybe it's a resident spotlight, maybe it's, different things about an event with an open house for potential residents to come visit. And I know that a big part of the Mascots is that content creation, because just for example, I think I used it yesterday in making an email for scheduling interviews. So we can send out a mass email, and instead of typing something up with my specific community information, I can ask Sunny, our talent mascot, hey, can you create an email template scheduling an interview for a caregiver at this community with this location for tomorrow? And then I have a whole wonderful scripted email I can just copy and paste and send to 10 people that applied yesterday. And so I don't even have to take the time to type all of that out. It's just click, 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 done. And there's different things like that that you can use it for, but I think we would be interested in exploring sales and marketing next, probably. But overall, we saw the biggest need definitely within the HR team with employee relations issues, whether it's benefits, whether it's FMLA, whether it's overtime, PTO policy, all that stuff they're pretty popular questions, and sometimes they're very easy to answer. So that's where we started for a reason.
Great, thank you. Well,
yeah, great
as you know, a half
discussion.
an hour goes by really
Oh,
quick.
yeah.
So,
It sure does.
Go ahead, Mark.
I just want to thank both of you for coming today. Emily, you're clearly an innovator, an early adopter of this technology. WiseOx, it sounds like a great partnership with Sonida there. To Greg's question there, we're actually going to use a mascot ourselves. We're going to call Pi. That's going to help all of us that are participating in Pure Innovations webinars. We will train it on our content today and our content going forward as we build that. So we'll have a library and an assistant to help us with that, because that's an extra resource on our team that we'll find very valuable. I want to thank you both again for coming. We've had some help also on the backside from my team. Thank you very much for getting this initial webinar off and running. Magnetar Advertising for the excellent work on the logo background, and marketing support and event support from Tori at Roaring Events. So thank you all for joining today and listening in, and we'll see all you innovators on the next session, which will be memory care during the holidays. So look for more information on that date and time here very soon. Thanks again, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Emily.
Thank you.